The Restoration Shaman is a reactive healer that is rewarded for some proactive gameplay. It has a very simple gameplay flow in both healing and dealing damage, which makes it a great option for those who want to get into a healer that's easy to learn, but has plenty of ropes to learn later down the road as you get more comfortable with the class. So as a Resto Shaman, our gameplay is mostly unaffected by our mastery, so we can pretty much ignore this. And instead, I'm going to talk about tidal waves, which is a core mechanic that we have that will really kind of be the ebb and flow of this class. So every time we cast a Chain Heal or Riptide, it's going to reduce the cast time of our next Healing Wave or Healing Surge and increase its effectiveness. So essentially what this does is it creates a loop of gameplay where we are generating tidal wave stacks and then consuming those tidal wave stacks. And we generate with spells like Riptide and Chain Heal, and we consume the stacks with Healing Wave or Healing Surge. So next, we're going to talk about all of our core spells, and we're going to do this by breaking them down into different categories to better understand where and why they should be used. We're going to start with the sustain healing spells. These spells are things that you're going to be casting the most frequently and are going to be your most used keybinds once you do keybind them. These spells include Riptide, Healing Rain, and Healing Wave. The Riptide is just a single target heal. It does initial healing, and then it also leaves a heal over time effect on the target, but we don't have to worry too much about the heal over time effect. Just get used to pressing Riptide as often as possible every time it's available, because this will be our main generator of tidal wave stacks. Next up, Healing Rain is going to be a spell that we're going to be wanting to use every time it's available, and we're going to want to use it on the most amount of targets as possible. As you can see, it lays like a area on the floor, and it will just heal all ally units inside of it up to a maximum of 6 allies. So typically to heal the most amount of allies, you're just going to want to put this in melee or around whatever you're currently fighting. And then as it expires, it also comes back up off cooldown. So this again is just a spell that you're just going to refresh every time that you see it back up. And then lastly, we have Healing Wave. This is a 2-second cast time, just single target heal. It's very efficient on mana, but it takes a long time to cast. With a tidal wave charge, we do reduce the cast time by about 0.4, so about a quarter of the cast time is reduced. So as a general rule, always cast Healing Wave with a tidal wave stack. Otherwise, do not press Healing Wave. You should try to pretty much never cast Healing Wave as just a hard cast ability without any tidal wave stacks. So next up, we're going to go over our burst healing spells. These are going to be spells that we're still using pretty consistently, but they have a different purpose. Their purpose is to pick people up when they're lower HP, and the Riptide, Healing Rain, Healing Wave combo isn't going to be enough to sustain them. These spells are going to include Healing Surge, Chain Heal, and Cloudburst Totem. So Healing Surge is pretty much the exact same spell as Healing Wave, but it's faster and it costs a lot more mana. Just like with Healing Wave, we ideally want to always use Healing Surge with a tidal wave stack, but we don't have to with this spell since it doesn't reduce the cast time. So Healing Surge as a default is going to be the button that we press when we don't feel like we have enough time to either A, generate tidal wave stacks to heal somebody with Healing Wave, or we don't have the time to press Healing Wave in the first place and we just need a bit more healing to do right away to them. Next up, Chain Heal is going to be a spell that we target one player with it, and it will heal that player and then bounce to 4 nearby players and also heal them for a percentage of the amount that you healed first. This is a smart heal, so you really don't have to think about it too much. You generally just throw it on the person who's the most injured, and then if there's other injured nearby players, it will also heal them. So this is a spell that you would use when you're trying to generate tidal wave stacks and heal multiple people at the same time. Cloudburst Totem is going to be very similar to Healing Rain in the fact that we just want to drop it every time it's available. As you can see, I have 2 charges right here because Echo of Elements. So I drop Cloudburst Totem, and it puts a totem down that absorbs, or I guess duplicates, a percentage of the healing that we do. So all the healing I'm doing right now is feeding into the Cloudburst Totem. As you can see, this number going up. And when the totem expires here, it's going to burst and heal everybody nearby the totem and it's going to split all that healing that was absorbed into the totem and dish it back out to everybody. So because of the way this works, again, it's another smart heal. So it's something that we can kind of just set down and forget. We really don't need to overthink charging it up a certain way or doing anything fancy with it. We just set it down and let it do its passive work by absorbing our healing and then dishing it back out on the correct targets that need more healing afterwards once it expires. And then next up we have our utility spells. This is going to be Wind Shear, Purify Spirit, and Purge. Wind Shear is just a ranged interrupt ability, so you can use it to interrupt spellcasts on enemy units. Generally, as a rule, I would just say if you don't know what to interrupt, just interrupt anything that has a yellow bar. On most add-ons and even the default Blizzard UI, if the cast bar is yellow, that means that you can interrupt it, and if it is not yellow, usually it'll be red or gray, that means you cannot interrupt it. So whenever you see a yellow bar, just go ahead and press Wind Shear, and just get in the habit of doing that, and then later down the road, you will learn what is more important to interrupt than other casts, and then you can start prioritizing those casts instead. But just getting into the habit of interrupting things is going to be a huge benefit and already put you leaps and bounds ahead of other healers. Purify Spirit is our cleanse, and all it does is remove curse and magic debuffs. So we want to be using this whenever we see somebody with a curse or magic debuff. And then Purge is an ability that we use on an enemy unit, and it will get rid of any magic effect that they have on them. So it's usually magic related buffs. If you have nameplate add-ons, it will track these, and you'll be able to just see when the enemy unit has something purgeable, and then you can just purge it off. So next up, we're going to talk about our damage spells. This is going to be Lava Burst, Flame Shock, and Lightning Bolt, and Chain Lightning. Lava Burst is just a single target damage spell, and it does have a cooldown. With Echo of the Elements, it has 2 charges. Flame Shock is a damage over time effect that we apply to an enemy. It also has a short cooldown, but the cooldown does refresh much before the actual duration of the debuff is up, so we can use it on multiple targets if needed. And Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning are pretty much the same spell, but just have different uses in that Lightning Bolt just hits one target, and Chain Lightning hits multiple targets, but for less damage. So as you can see, Chain Lightning will hit for 4,500, 4,500, and then Lightning Bolt will hit for slightly more. The benefit to Chain Lightning is when you have multiple targets, you can then use Chain Lightning, and it will instead do extra damage. It's basically as long as there's 2 targets or more, you can safely use Chain Lightning instead of Lightning Bolt to deal damage. Alright, so now we're going to talk about our healing rotation. So step 1 is upkeep spells. This is going to be Healing Rain and Cloudburst Totem. Our 2 most important abilities is to just maintain Healing Rain on the ground and keep a Cloudburst Totem down as much as possible. Again, we don't need to overthink the Cloudburst Totem, just set it down and pretty much forget about it. And then we're refreshing Healing Rain every time it's up, and then once our Cloudburst detonates, we can go ahead and set down another one right away, since there's 2 charges. Step 2 is to generate tidal waves. This is going to be done by pressing Riptide and Chain Heal. Most of the time, we're going to be pressing Riptide to generate our tidal wave stacks. So this means keeping down Healing Rain, keeping down a Cloudburst Totem, and then generating tidal wave stacks by pressing Riptide on cooldown. And if Riptide's off cooldown, or rather if it is on cooldown and you don't have any charges left, you can then press Chain Heal instead. And then lastly, once we have 2 tidal wave stacks generated, since that's all we can generate up to, while we're still maintaining our other upkeep spells, we're then going to spend those tidal wave stacks with either Healing Wave or Healing Surge. As a default, in Raid, use Healing Wave, and in Mythic Plus or Dungeon content, use Healing Surge. Since Healing Wave is much more mana efficient, it's better to use it in Raid because it'll let you last longer throughout the fight, and then you can just use Healing Surge for emergency healing. But then in dungeons, you don't have to worry so much about your mana, so you can freely press Healing Surge more often instead of Healing Wave. So again, one more run through of the healing rotation, upkeep spells, healing rain, and Cloudburst Totem down at all times. Then we're generating Tidal Wave stacks with Riptide and Chain Heal. Then we're spending those Tidal Wave stacks with Healing Wave or Healing Surge. Upkeep spells, generate, spend. And that's the basics of the rotation. All right, now we'll talk about our damage rotation. So first, all I want you to be comfortable with is being able to flame shock targets. So when you're fighting either in a raid or dungeon encounter, just get used to pressing flame shock every time it's off cooldown. If there's only one target, you only need to refresh it once it's below about 5 seconds remaining on the debuff. Then what we're going to do is use these Lava Surge procs. So while we're refreshing Flame Shock, we are then, every time we get this proc on our screen, it means we can instant cast a Lava Burst. So we're just going to do that. So we keep Flame Shock on targets, and if there's multiple targets, we can use it on multiple targets, and then every time we get this proc right here in the middle of our screen, we're pressing Lava Burst. Then once we get more comfortable with that, we're then going to start incorporating hard casting Lava Burst. So this means even when we don't have a proc, as long as Lava Burst is available, when it's red, that means there's no charges. When it's yellow on my UI, that means there's 1 charge. And when it's not showing at all, that means I have 2 charges. All we're doing is flame shocking and then pressing Lava Burst as much as possible. Also, when we do get a proc of Lava Surge, we do refresh 1 charge of Lava Burst, so it means you can press it right away and you don't have to wait for the cooldown. And then lastly, for our third step in damage rotation, we're then going to start incorporating Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt whenever we don't have Lava Burst available. So we keep Flame Shock on the target, we're Lava Bursting as much as possible, using Lava Surge charges when they pop up, and then otherwise, once Lava Burst is off, or on cooldown rather, we're going to then incorporate Lightning Bolt if it's a single target fight, and then if we're in AoE, we're then going to start incorporating Chain Lightning. So here, I'm maintaining Flame Shock on targets, I'm pressing Lava Burst every time it's available, but as you can see, when it's not available, I am pressing Chain Lightning. Using this Lava Surge charge, now I don't have Lava Burst available, so I'm pressing Chain Lightning. Refreshing Flame Shock, Lava Burst, Chain Lightning, Lava Burst. No particular order, it's just about maintaining those steps. Flame Shock, Lava Burst, then fill with Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt. And that's it for the damage rotation, which that covers the entirety of our beginner's guide for Resto Shaman in Dragonflight. I hope this video was helpful. Make sure you stop by the community Discord that we have linked down in the description. And then also, once you're ready to move on to the next step, you can go ahead and watch the next Raid or Mythic Plus guide that I release for Resto Shaman, whichever is the most up-to-date in the current patch cycle. Thank you so much for watching again. See you all later.